Welcome back. It's Daybreak. Now let's take a look at what's making the headlines in the papers around the world this morning, beginning with this day newspaper as usual. Leading with 124 years after Cambridge University hands over Benin bronze cockerel to Nigeria. The Okuko, stolen from ancient kingdom in 1897 by British colonial forces. And Lai Mohammed commends the bravery of Nigerian students in the London University. The story is continued on page 46. And also the leading picture on this day's newspaper is the return of the cockerel to the Oba of Benin. Those are the Nigerian delegations that were in Cambridge, United Kingdom yesterday. More headlines on this day newspaper. NNPC to reconstruct 21 critical federal roads projects to gulp 621.2 billion naira. Lagos-Badagry Road, Bida-Mina Road, dualization of the Aba-Ikotekbene Road, and others. Also, the deregulation to deliver 12 trillion naira savings to Nigeria in 4 years, says the NNPC. And last headline on the front page of this day this morning, the Senate says INEC is free to transmit Anambra governorship election results electronically.
The Nation leads with the headline, Governors lobby senators, reps against direct primaries. The writer to that story, we have gone far with Electoral Act amendments, says Senate spokesperson. Above the nameplate this morning, IPOP threats, Ohaneze calls for urgent political solution. And hours after launch, e-Naira app down on Google Play Store. Finally, federal government targets 7,000 megawatts with TCN, that's the transmission company of Nigeria. The Discos, the distribution companies, upgrade, and Abuad performs first kidney transplant. Front page of the Nation this morning.
Riding over now to the Punch newspaper. PDP moves to save convention, pressures Secondus over suit. Petrol subsidy may climb to 3 trillion naira in 1 year. That's according to the NNPC. Find that report on page 27. And there's more headlines for us in the Punch newspaper. NNPC will construct 21 federal roads with 621.2 billion naira in 3 years. That's according to the Minister Fashola. And right at the top, after 48 hours, e-Naira app removed from Google Store amid criticism. Why?
Well, moving on to the Guardian newspaper this morning, it's leading with the G20 summit. It says ahead of that summit, the ILO and others are demanding COVID-19 vaccine justice. G20 members have received 15 times more vaccine doses than African countries. And of the 6.9 billion vaccine doses globally, only 2% administered in Africa. Also, 2.88 million Nigerians are fully vaccinated. That's representing just 1.4% of the population. Another headline on the Guardian newspaper this morning, the federal government to review licenses of discos and gencos over poor performance.
A quick run through the foreign papers this morning. The Mirror attacks Mr. Sunak for his budget. As they put it, giving champagne to the rich, but real pain to the poor.
And Mr. Sunak is on all the papers, in front of the Independent, from the Times and the Guardian. And the Guardian in the UK saying Sunak's post-COVID plan, spend now, cut taxes later.
Will definitely not be a good day for Sunak. Well, let's bring in Emmanuel Bello for the press review this morning. Emmanuel, good morning. Thanks for joining us this morning. We'll begin with this day and one of the biggest stories we've been talking about for a few days now. 124 years after Cambridge University has returned a Benin bronze, the Okuko, back to Nigeria. Now, they're definitely setting the precedent, but how much pressure is this going to give to other institutions to follow suit?
It's a good story, and I think these days the only paper that is leading with that story, which is quite fundamental. But there are people who say, so what's the big deal about the Cockerel being returned? If you're a student of history or anthropology or archaeology, you understand that these things matter, especially because of their cultural import, and also for their potential for the tourism industry and for cultural ties and for even diplomatic relationship with these countries that were here, and there were a whole lot of thefts of this intellectual property, of this our cultural artifact and our heritage. So it's a big day, and look at the number of years it took for those artifacts, or at least one of them, to be returning home. There's been, such returns in the past with promises that more of the stolen artifacts will come back. I think it's a great story, and it's a great day for historians, for the people that, the owners for the kingdom, the Benin kingdom. This is a very good one. It's celebratory in nature. And so I'm sure with this story and with the other efforts, even the government is making to see that there's been a return of stolen artifacts. Those are priceless piece of, art returned to the country. It's something. There are people who say, what is the economic value? A lot. It has all sort of, import for the tourism industry, the cultural industry, and of course for even bilateral relationship between us and the countries that did this. It brings some form of closure to some of those historical, what happened in history and the crisis of the relationship that existed between us, especially during the era of slavery. So this is a way of trying to right the past, a very long past, and to bring closure to some of the damaging effects of the slavery, especially the economic angle of it, stolen property. Of course, there are certain things that can never be right again because of those 400 years of the transatlantic slave trade. But we're getting there. At least some form of admission, some form of restitution, some form of return of what has been taken. We might be getting some mental closure to some of the painful aspects of the stories of slavery and of serious looting of our heritage.
We are delightful that the Okoko is coming home, and many more hopefully will follow. But let's take a look at another story still on the front page of this day. Yesterday, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, presided over the weekly FEC meeting, and after the meeting, some revelations were made. The NNPC is to reconstruct 21 critical federal roads. The project is to go up 621.2 billion naira. And they listed some of the roads that will be affected: Lagos-Badagry Road, Bidamina Road, dualization of Aba Court Ekmene Road, and some others. This is a good development, isn't it, Emmanuel?
It is, and I think it's to counter the negative image this government has gathered. We've been seeing a pattern now this day with both the president and the vice president almost in a hurry, like a race against time, to rewrite its own legacy, its own stories, its own history. And that's what governments do, especially at this crunch time. They try to rewrite, they try to make right some of the things. Talking about this route, these are fundamental, these are very huge projects that are needed. Roads are very important. And someone said that the road to development is just that, roads. You need road for any form of development to happen. So yeah, this is a good story. And like I say, it appears the president and his vice running against time, trying to rewrite their own legacies, their stories, and trying to present a better image. Some people will say better late than never, others will say coming late in the day. But whatever it is, we are reporting the stories, and we are looking at a much more energized, more energy kind of from the president and his vice in these matters.
Move over now to the Punch newspaper. Of course, on the front page, we see pictures of bad roads, protest over bad Lagos Abeokuta road, saying Abiodun says it's unfortunate. But what we will be focusing on is Anambra. The election is less than 2 weeks away, and INEC says it can transmit Anambra election results electronically. That's according to the National Assembly. A good place to start testing this, Emmanuel?
Not a very good place to start testing it, but it has to be test run, because we are talking about a very fractious election. The separatist group on ground, The boots are on ground. The federal government boots are on ground. It's almost like the stage has been set for a showdown between the two parties. In the midst of all that, an election is still expected to take place, and of course, an election that is going to test the very, very revolutionary the electronic captures of results. Two beautiful things that came out of the Senate early in the month: the issue of direct primaries, and of course the issue of direct captures electronically. So, beautiful thing. There are two things that most politicians are really happy about. Now we're going to see how it runs in Anambra State. INEC says it's ready for the elections in terms of material. It's still making those promises as early as yesterday that it's still ready for the election. The separatist groups seem to be also determined to see that an election does not happen. Anambra is not just longer a state election. It's not just something consigned to a region of the country. It's something that all of us will be watching in the next few days, how the November 6th election turns out. It's going to be an interesting in it. We're going to see so many things. There's drama in it, there's suspense, there's the issue of the electronic voting, there's the issue of how to even police the democracy, all sorts of things with the Anambra election, and I think it's a good thing that we're beaming our searchlight on it.
Emmanuel, quickly, let's talk about COVID-19 vaccine justice. Ahead of the G20 summit, the International Labour Organization is demanding for that. Now, out of the 6.9 billion vaccines doses globally, only 2% have been administered in Africa. Why is that? Do we not have enough vaccines? Are people not taking the vaccines? Do they need a little bit more push? I know the federal government, we discussed that a few weeks ago, has said that December 1st, all federal workers must be vaccinated. Emmanuel.
In addition to that, the Lagos State Governor too took the lead yesterday to announce that an operation 4 million, count me in, 4 million vaccines. It's promising that before the end of the year, 4 million Lagosians will be vaccinated. So, well, yeah, but there's an imbalance, serious imbalance, if you look at the way, first also because of the way the governments outside there are actually prosecuting the vaccines administration. You can see determination, you can see push, you can see efforts, you can see policies, you can see even personal examples all displayed as you look at the way vaccines are administered there. But of course, you still also need to talk about those imbalance, and those, the Guardian newspaper was very clear about that, bringing out even the statistics, the numbers and the percentages, and it's abysmally, really, really low, as if Africa is not part of the global push against COVID-19. Yeah, so on one hand, you can talk about those injustices, but then on the other hand, you can also talk about the attitude of government. And in Nigeria, we're beginning to see also a very strong push by government. Lagos State coming out to say by the end of the year, it's vaccinating 4 million people. That's a far cry if you look at the 20-something.
And that's where we have to leave it this morning. Emmanuel Belli, thank you so much for reviewing the papers with us again this morning. We'll see you tomorrow.